It's Saturday, October 17th, and I just lost a lot of my mojo. I was writing a performance recording, and it's taking forever for the previous nearly 60 minutes to render. So I'm sitting here at this converting meeting from Zoom. You know, it does, tech, we've got a lot of great tech, but it's also really impeding the capacity of human brains to think in an organic way, right? It's inadvertent. This whole thing about the tech singularity, I can stop it singular-handedly simply because I believe I'm the biological singularity. That's a little wordplay, right? And not, again, grandiosity necessarily, wordplay. But as the biological singularity, here's what I know to be the case, that rigidity equals fragility. And this is in Nassim Nicholas Taleb's book, Anti-Fragile. Things that gain from disorder. A crucial seminal volume that really opened me up and to seeing, he put words to things that I had embodied intelligence of. So I don't think my good friend Nassim, who someday will definitely be buying me a really expensive dinner for ignoring me on Twitter. I needed you, pal. But, you know, both Black Swan, as I do sometimes I have another persona, redheaded Black Swan. Redheaded She-Hulk is just because, like, pandemic and bankruptcy and no touching. The rest of no touching, it's lived my whole life in a freaking, you know, jail scene of Arrested Development. That ain't right. That ain't right, humanity. But nonetheless, it happened. So, you know, I can be a little bit snotty about my Nietzschean Zen cones to NNT not getting seen. It's a technological problem. And I was just, this is why I'm all frustrated. It took, this thing is still at 87% rendering. It's like I needed the thing to be more fully rendered than this one. And I don't know, does it, I mean, I know it's a different directory, but I'm talking about processing power. How do you know anything about this Mac? And when the wheel just starts spinning, Macs are inconceivable to me. I don't understand even how the file storage works. Now, most people would see that as a limitation of themselves, and I don't. I see it as a philosophical problem that Steve Jobs has had in the past, because he wasn't able to see Deb, and we couldn't think about this a little bit more strategically. Yeah, that's grandiose. Ain't nothing grandiose, in all truthfulness, about knowing that I'm going to create the second most famous equation after E equals MC squared, which is called she. Because again, what I want to talk about as a philosopher, hashtag well-being philosophy, is human energy. So that'd be he. Right, She-Hulk is not standing on a stage solving an equation HE. So it has to be SHE, she, which resolves to sustainable human energy quite quickly. Now, there is the basic metabolical energy, which I can't explain in E equals MC squared. Because I stopped competing with Einstein in the sense of thinking I needed to do better. He did perfectly fine. It just wasn't the context, the 1 + 1 = 3. He did the 1 + 1 = 2 version of E = mc squared, and I can do the 1 + 1 = 3 version of E = mc squared. At this point, I do not explain 1 + 1 = 3 very much anymore, but it's the math of life, and it means, you know, the context that makes that a valid equation is 1 man + 1 woman = a third baby. It's reproduction and evolution, the math of life. It's not strictly numerical counting. It's an exponential quality of life, of spontaneity. I'm being morbidly obese for 49 years, and then voila. I'm gonna do this with cannabis. I'm gonna give me some tuning forks. I'm gonna heal my childhood trauma because I had a massage therapist do some really great fascial twisting on my right leg. And we were always talking, had a very, you know, motherly, daughterly, client level relationship. So not codependent, but knowing that we were playing those roles in that paid hour, right? Specifically, you know, this is very meta that, you know, it's better if you don't necessarily just do therapy, but have a physical interaction with the talking that is very, very guided into getting the vibrations that have been stuck in your fascia and your biofield since, you know, you were 3. Going back into that childhood trauma, you don't, replaying it, talking about it, sitting like you were taught as a child, you know, and having bad posture. No, I mean, a lot of us would have horrible posture talking about these things. So it's not going to solve the problem. I mean, that was it. You see, so you want to get into the embodiment of now I'm feeling reduced in some way as a child. And then it's that you can move forward. And since this was an example, I wasn't really into anything, just immediately switched that right back on the second time moved. See, homeostasis, y'all, men, and back to my neuroplasticity and getting you like this hard piece of plastic. This is not how we want to describe our brains, as plastic. We do not want to keep describing our brains in terms of stuff we've created. It's straight to extinction, because stuff takes a great deal of energy to manipulate. So all of this chemotherapy and radiation is because it took us all this energy to make this stuff, because stuff doesn't apply to the math of life. Stuff is inert. Life comes with its own energy, sustainable human energy, E = mc squared. Now, that's just literally metabolical energy, like staying alive. And I'm gonna pause just for a second. Y'all. Everyone else in the neighborhood has their heat on, so it's gotten kind of cold here in Seattle. And some of that, plus some of the stress of the acid feelings of this whole bankruptcy situation, made me really hungry. Now the cannabis is kicking in for this evening, and I have a little work to do at around 8 p.m. So I'm gonna snack a little bit while we go on. Caramel, in a good way. I'm good with props. We can't have Zanzibar. You may not. That was an epic fail. There was. Oh, I'm such a good actress. Oops. Of course, it was a piece of chocolate. We can't have Zanzi eating the chocolate. And then it got into all of the, fell in a corner. This is a whole bunch of dog hair. And I'm putting it in the tissue, which we had already done. This is life, people. Here I am in my master class of ElderSavanting2, having to deal with a caramel chocolate bar meltdown so that my dog doesn't die. I'll be right back. And I'm just thrilled that something like this would happen, because this is the power of learning to surf your own monkey mind. I just learned to gain a lot of admiration for actors. First, I started out bragging. I was doing pretty good with the props, causing myself to have a immediate implosion. Because instead of just being in the doing, to dying, because it's two different things. It's completely two different things. Presenting to the camera versus demonstrating the skill and precision in my own plane. Two different things. That's why we lose focus. Perspective, the visual aspect of it, it's all how we're wired so strongly visually. Is again, I can see myself almost perfectly fine. I just get more details when I have the glasses on. And it's also, it's a challenge, because I will figure out how to fix my eyesight. So I got the little, can't see tiny text because of the phones. And I'm pretty sure. And I need the glasses to get the data. So we got left brain, right brain, but we also have left and right facial muscles. And most people have two different, their eyebrows are like up, and it's about muscles. About the one side atrophies. So I used to always be able to wink, but this couldn't do. This was like frozen. Last week, I had done this a lot, and I had to do it a lot to start getting the muscle. I can only do this when both eyes are closed. To keep this eye, the other eye open, and close this one. Complicated. And just right here, I can feel this has gone backwards, my capacity, because I'm doing the reflection on Zoom versus having just been lying in my bed. And in my there's also the plane. I was lying flat and I'm now sleeping without a pillow. I'm really getting my spine into ancestral postureness. Giraffing. And so, see, I turn my head. And my brain is like, you keep trying to get the eye to go first, but it's actually the cheek. It really is to not a very interesting thing. So yeah, I will fix my eyesight. It is probably not something you'd have thought would come up. In ElderSavanting, of course it does. As a well-being philosopher, I'm obsessed with the brilliance of human bodies. I mean, these things are just astounding. And I've discovered that it's the limits of our languaging that's limiting our ability to see how wonderful they are. And we keep applying mechanistic solutions. You know, WD-40, when the answer is vibration. In a nutshell, I'm here to say, all right, you got biochemistry about as sorted as you're going to get it sorted. A little more obscure. But biochemistry is not the full answer, is it? It's time for bioelectricity. Yeah, that's what I'm saying to you. We got to understand the philosophical hypothesis of bioelectricity. Now, I don't know why I got a LinkedIn DM. I got to go look at it just to see. Well, it's this guy I'm falling in love with today. And sure enough, you know what he did? He just barged in here with a thumbs up emoji. Eli, you're the one who's actually put me in this great mood. So in a certain way, that's, you know, so major props. It's just like, you're gonna see yourself, right? That was not worth your time or my time. Nobody's time. All this emojis, adults. We're gonna bring this shit back already. Really, seriously. Think about how much life force we're investing in emojiing. Who might even see it? How quickly it simply doesn't matter. This is why somebody like me has to cry about not getting attention. Who has to get somewhere tremendously close to bankruptcy and not have any idea how it's going to be avoided. And then there's this guy sending me a thumbs up emoji. That might be it. So you see, it's not the thumbs up emoji itself. We should have that capacity. But we've just taken it to this place where it's meaningless in most instances. So just like, you know, pagers made sense when you needed a doctor to come deliver a baby. But then everybody just like, well, I want to talk to you right now, texting the numbers back and forth, and the wire. Shout out David Simon. You just tweeted a picture of your mother watching her grandson at the jazz club. That's really meant something to me. There's already hundreds of tweets, and I spent some time like say a little something, and I know you don't really notice me. Tweeted you a few times, David Simon, because the wire's the bomb, but Treme is even more the bomb. Holla, I would like to do. Why not? You know, I've never tried to pitch you before, David Simon. I admire your work a lot. He's a redhead who's the only white person. Carnegie Mellon during the late 80s, center of the Black community. Grandiose, on tap. The series of my college. How does all happen? I'm already mentioned David Simon of Treme. I mean, you're tired, right? Whatever it is you do. I mean, to me, of course I know what you do. I could actually probably sit here and really astound you with the depth of my understanding of the wire and Treme. But what that really is, you know, I'm not political in any way. And you know, why I like Treme just a little bit better. This was really the dance and the music, and you know, introducing me to Trombone Shorty and whatnot. I mean, I guess the wire introduced me to Idris Elba. That's fair. I don't know, but anti-racism is what I'm saying. Is perhaps my college years. There's a little series about anti-racism, about how it is important to create a narrative that white people did have a choice. None of this white fragility, white this. It was all around us, but it didn't make sense. If you were thinking clearly, you were acting differently. Now, you may not have been an all-out advocate because things were shifting. You know, I'm not trying to go deep down into this because clearly they failed. So I'm not gonna. It's not about that. But there really was a sense, to me at least, in the late 80s, where we were really about to create racial harmony. I think it was West Coast rap, y'all. Again, I'm not being judgy. Yes, I am. Definitely East Coast. De La, Tribe, Latifah, Mooney Love. Just on LinkedIn. Yes, on LinkedIn yesterday. Explaining the buddy needs to be the Globe's butt song. It was daytime stamp. My friend Inca in London, holler at her. Look, memories. This is all memories. I'm just tying things together, and everything in my life is coherent. It's what's salient to me. It's the way I see things. And the more energy, the more fit you become, the more healthy you become, the more you have access to all of your memories, and you're making yourself happy. So you're creating the play of your life in your stream of consciousness. You're not thinking about the election. I mean, it pops in, but you're not obsessed with it. You're not thinking about, I want racism to change, but it's too big, I don't understand it. Those kinds of things are the things that I am incredibly good at not thinking. It just didn't occur to me. So I can put together a philosophical premise of racism being demolished before we hit 2030. You know, I need to see more action plans. I mean, my gut wants to say, you know, 2025, done. Depending on how quick people will listen to me. That's the part that's hard here. You know, people want me to do 1-minute videos, y'all. I'm writing in 1,250 character LinkedIn comments. Even I look at my LinkedIn articles and I'm like, who's gonna be able to read all this? I mean, they're great. They're very illustrative. But on the device, the person's not, I mean, if they get any smaller than a MacBook Air, like that's the thing. I would, just brand new too. So if I could get on my Windows 7 and look at my LinkedIn articles, I think they're going to be easier to understand than on the MacBook Air. Visually, yep. The size of the screen that we're trying to comprehend information is basically, I think by smartphone times, you're like intelligence of a 6-year-old. 6-second attention span, 6-year-old. You're just not that smart. When you look at it like a chunk of 20 words, 200 words, 2,000 words. Shrinking ourselves in our mobility, which thank you coronavirus for sort of like going, caught y'all. Caught y'all on your biggest blind spot. That's what the coronavirus has done for us. Life-centric thinking in our own best interests is what we need to unite as one common species of 7.8 billion people, become fully anti-racist and life-centric and clear about how we think, which is not mechanistic. There's a paradigm that busts here. Everything that here and why this all does hold together. And I have no fear of saying something untrue. No fear. Whatever random thing that I say is for the good of humanity. And as I've proven, I'm not trying to force this down anyone's neck. Why I think it's important that I get to be the first out the gate and we don't let other people are evolving or adapting, whichever degree of change you believe this is. I mean, this is exponential change. It's either adapting or even evolving. Now, consciousness evolves faster than bodies do. So our bodies might be adapting to, bodies are adapting, but our consciousness can evolve much quicker than our bodies can. So there you go. So getting clear on words like that, this usage, that to me, again, we want to just keep making sure we say it's the delusion of white supremacy. It's a delusion. No such thing as white supremacy. It was a set of heinous pivots. So I'm not going down. Pivots, right? Again, I'm wanting to go, well, how much do I explain the delusion of white supremacy? Just that it is a delusion, that my thinking has gotten so advanced that I may only say the delusion of white supremacy because we want it to be understood. It's a mental illness. There's no there. No such thing as white supremacy. Good, bad, left, right, center, nothing. There is, whites are not supreme. So it's a delusion of mental illness. Da-dum-bum. Yeah. It makes me want to cry. And I had to sniff a little bit because trying to just get a little more oxygen in there before the tears. This level of body awareness, body noticing, somatic awareness is actually how you become an optimal human. Now, as again, the point of orders I'm having with Dr. Joe Dispenza today. Most of us are in chaos, body, mind, and spirit. And getting down into theta and getting into his meditation states, it's revolutionary. It does remove disease. It does put people into the positions of being conscious creators. There's another even shift into fully embodiment. Walking of consciousness. And it's very, very universal love. So once it's this thing that you just can't. I'm not worried about explaining it because I don't think anyone can do it if they've not healed childhood trauma to a large degree, if they're not empowered enough physically, well enough to have put the brain capacity up in here to see what is a personal need and what's a global need. And there's a lot of preconditions to get into this Buddha-ness of just being like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, tell you about this, tell you about that. It's, again, as a philosopher, we don't have the same context and we don't have an overlapping set of references. You're not smart enough to keep up. You won't keep listening to this. And somebody might even tell you, Deb has a treasure map, but you don't know where to put the map. This is what this is. It's a treasure map to the theory of everything, to making human civilization this place that we would describe as nirvana, where everyone's creating their own best lives and they have all the resources they need. You have a UBI, back up here in the show notes. We do need to get to UBI, like the quickness. What I'm looking for is to find some Black founders, perhaps just in Africa, where we use D-money to fund a UBI. Completely out of the thin air of love that Deb Helfrich has for the African people, the African continent. D-money. All right, so because, crypto, and then I was like, was blockchain, but crypto is a horrible term. It's just, doesn't feel safe. Something cryptic about it, something, there's the overlap with the tomb and the crypt and the blockchain. That's the tech, that's not the concept. So it's just D-money, it's digital money. So if we create a concept, the D-money is a UBI in Africa. It's virtual love stuck in little accounts for every African, including this one who's emigrating, who wants me. I also have some currencies in different places. Do we need nation states? I was talking with my friend Nigerian Hanyel O, and we both see that, like, we're now in a global production, services, financial, we just all should be equal. I mean, get rid of all of this inequity, it was just all equal. If it's not, he lives in a state named Nigeria, and I live in a state named Washington. So you gotta call state. So we ran out of names, and so we have a DC and a state. That's not efficient. So this place had to be called Washington. There wasn't enough knowledge and data going around, is probably the real point. There may have been some contention, but they might not have seen, like, they're gonna have this drop down in the 2000s when you're doing all your internet shopping, and it's like, there's a few more letters left. No, there's not. 26. There's no more letters left. Well, but that's There are a few more, strictly numerically, there would be no letters left. If we're trying to have, 26 letters and we got 50 states, there should be no empty letters. But is there a state called with the letter Z? Zenzile is saying, gotcha. This is the fault of numbers, the math of counting. Counting, you go, aha, here's the meaning from the math. Math is just a tool. And the numbers can add up in a way that generates no meaning or isn't 100% valid meaning. So if everything was logical, 26 letters in 50 states, there's no state starting with X. The state starts with E. I'm having trouble with that one. The thing is, you'd think it'd be quicker for me to just go on Amazon and try and pull down a state. Amazon's probably a bad one because they store, I'd never find the address field on Amazon. It would take forever. That's the whole point. That's the whole point, is technically, again, in my heyday, I could have got that answered really quickly. I suppose I can Google it. I suppose. Let's see. Let's see. Here we go. State starting, and it does. This all of the autofill. State starting with BSH. Yeah. Interesting. State starting with E. Nope. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. This is the level of analysis it takes to make sure, even though the math adds up. I found Z, X, and E. Could have found them pretty quick if I stayed in my own brain, but then I was like trying to assess, should I go get tech? My gut said my brain would work faster, but here I am thinking, oh, I can show up tech. And then all that overhead really slowed the whole process way the fuck down. I don't think most people think so rigorously about what they're doing, but I do. And the reason I do is being a neglected child who's never really, I've never felt loved. That there is somebody who is guaranteed to take care of me, see me for my true self, and help me make sure that that's what I get to do. So I'm scared. I'm scared all the time. Adult onset autism. I can go around this and there's probably, I wasn't so damn fucking smart enough to fool everyone in my community of origin. I probably was somewhere on the spectrum, since I stayed completely silent. Who knew? But what that did was, since I never had to be diagnosed with anything, since I could work the system just well enough to be invisible in it, I can bust it wide open now that so many people are locked into inhumane systems that are what are we doing to our species? Don't do it anymore. Listen to Deb. And there are many other people. And I don't think they're trained philosophers. So what matters with me is the breath and the absolute certainty that if you don't understand my fancy flights of logic in this kind of performance, we can stop it, get it down, parse it out, and I'll go get your references. I want to stop our species from self-extincting and enable every single one of the 7.8 billion humans born, and whatever that number ultimately is, I think we're going to drop her down naturally, because the more fulfilled we are in every day, the longer human life is going to be. Don't have to reproduce just to have enough hands on a farm. We will only reproduce when there's real loving commitment to co-parenthood. Concepts of marriage and things that we now. So you can have a co-parenting relationship from the start and have sex that is full of love. We should only be conceiving when the sex is loving. And both people are committed to the next 18 years of co-parenting. They may also be life partners, but they wouldn't necessarily have to be. You don't necessarily be co-parents and then have another spouse who's your like day-to-day person. There's a lot more answers when we don't let the administration of bureaucrats, marriage, one category and only certain configurations. And what God is that? Once your mind gets free, your mind's free. That's my certainty. Once your mind gets free of the mechanistic paradigm, you want the best for yourself. You realize that the best for yourself includes the best for everyone else. You're constrained if somebody else is being paid minimum wage, that is 40% of what it takes for the average apartment, as we was basically in the Seattle area. 40%, you can, you're not even able. What kind of agency can an adult have if they're working at a job 40 hours, standing on their feet, serving customers? And even with one roommate, they can't have an apartment. They gotta live with two people. And then they're basically paying rent and eating. Come on, the numbers do not add up. All you're around is numbers. And then you've got so many areas where the numbers don't add up. That's why our civilization is in chaos. It's y'all's bad math. And 1 + 1 = 3. Seeing math correctly, letting me, math is dead, y'all, says Ms. Nishi. Math is dead. Philosophy, says she, Socrates. Philosophy is queen of the universe. Making meaning. Numbers are a tool. Math is a system. enabling life to be vibrantly alive. That's magic. I think I'm gonna hit my time. 50 minutes. Brilliant. Let's bring back some focus. I think it's kind of cool with my glasses, right? Like that, huh? Look at all this. For a tomboy, never asked out on a date until I turned 51. Embodiment matters. If you're having trouble with your eyesight, let's take a look at how well your facial muscles move. One thing I just solved 40% of eyesight cases right there. I mean, just have the person get their face moving in the right direction. Get their posture, make sure, again, their neck is not constrained because there's some bandwidth issues. You know, get into that postural standard. And again, with the eyesight, it's complicated, but this is it. Now, why I said 40% is eyesight and thinking are really intertwined. This frontal lobe and eyesight goes all the way back and then all the way up through. We're all visual metaphors, and we don't trust things that we can't visualize. That's why the embodiment or the one-woman show and calling it improv, not wanting this to be a scripted performance that I memorize. I need to let my body talk. Let's get physical. I wanna get physical. Singing Olivia Newton-John. Singing is another important aspect to being vibrantly, optimally alive. There is movement and there's dancing, but also the visceral vibrations of our vocal cords, incredibly important. And there's videos out there that you can find that my voice is getting more and more powerful all the time. You know, I'm still in process. That's the part that's led to this sort of failure. And it's the part that I fear about the bankruptcy is they're gonna take my health from me. It's right in the zone of what will unstable me. And I'm actively in the process of healing for the future of humanity, paying perfect attention to what's going on so I can share it with other people like this. The longer I go on, the more clear I think I am. And you have to invest the time to come along with me and see how this all works and how it ties together over time. Time is the variable that's your problem. I'm over and out. See how long it takes for this recording to render.